You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun. All right, folks. We're back here on the Doug Collins Podcast. It's great today to have Chip Lake, who joined us a couple of weeks ago to do Friday's Finest. Thanks, Chip, for filling in. A great job. Heard a lot of great comments. But so we've decided, and James and I talked about this, that we're going to have Chip on as much as possible, especially during football season, to do Friday's Finest, not just with football, but also some politics as well, because many of you know Chip's been on the show before, and we go way back in politics. Chip is one of my mentors and guides, and also just a dear brother and friend and in this world. So what we're going to do to start off with today is Chip, let's go through some things that are going on. You have a long, extensive career in D.C. and politics and everything else. Are you at the point now to where you just sort of look at Kevin McCarthy and say, Kevin, you're in a corner. You got to quit painting here, buddy. I mean, it's just amazing to me as you look at it that, now he's getting mad about it. But in some ways, it looks like he sort of brought this to his own head. You know what I'm saying?
Doug, I thought that Kevin's kind of been backed into a corner, since that first vote was taken to determine who was going to be speaker. I mean, if you watched that process, and I know you did, and I know you and I had a chance to talk about it before the process went. I mean, it was obvious he might not have the votes. I don't think any of us knew it would take. I mean, how many votes did it take? 15, 16?
15.
Yeah, I mean
15.
That's crazy. And so, you have such a razor thin margin in the House that you have to govern by, and it's it shouldn't, to me and to others really, it shouldn't be a surprise that he's in the position that he finds himself in. Candidly, Doug, I thought he might find himself in it earlier in his term. I mean, he's, we're 9 months into his speakership now. And, I think this is kind of the first time where it's really looked like it, it's very tenuous, right? It's rocky. It's not real solid. And I think we thought we'd be there in March or April. So maybe he's done a good job to last this long.
I think he's done a good job to last as long as well, but it's also it reminds you of the guy. And I explained this I had a guy I was talking to the other day, Chip, and we explained it like this. It reminds me a lot now. And again, I hate this because we are at a time right now, frankly, as Republicans, we should be gaining ground. We shouldn't be going backwards now. I mean, no matter with Biden, this is a time we've got some of the quote facts on our side. It's just this is just where it should be, and we're not. But it's like I don't know if you ever played chess or checkers growing up, and you get to that one move where they can just move for about 20 moves. You can't get to them, and eventually you're gonna get to them, but you just extend the game out for like another 20 or 30 moves, 10 or 15 more minutes, and it just seems like Kevin is at that point. Because here's the other part is, and I have to agree in terms with we're even hearing it from some folks you wouldn't hear it from, like Thomas Massey and others. They don't know what they want. And I think, if you're trying to lead a group in which you have now, by the way, Chris Stewart leaves Friday. So today on Friday, it's his last day of Chris Stewart. So depending on who's in or out, Kevin is down to 3 votes, not 4. He's down to 3 votes. And, there's some up there who've, they've never voted yes in their life on some things. So how do we do this? Because, even when you talk about impeachment, if there was somebody ripe for a study on impeachment, Biden's family is, okay? But we can't even get a vote on the floor.
No, and you had said, now's the time we should be making gains. Last cycle was the time we should have been making gains too. All of the, the environment, the political environment last cycle was ripe for big gains across the board for Republicans, and it never happened, right? We never saw the wave. You had, anytime you have a president who is in his first midterm, especially somebody who's had, such low marks on competency in the economy and removal of Afghanistan and things like that, like Biden. I mean, we should have run the table last cycle in elections, and we didn't do it. I mean, the cycle was like a nothing burger. And I share your thoughts and kind of worry this time that we're running into the same thing. And I think it all just boils down to the fact that, we used to really enjoy beating Democrats and winning elections, and now we want to win arguments. And like you said, there are a lot of people, specifically in the House caucus. I mean, they enjoy the chaos, right? They feed off of it, and so, if you're speaker, and by the way, and I said this, back when all these votes were happening, and there was speculation rampant on, maybe this opens the door for Scalise, or maybe this opens the door for Jim Jordan, or maybe this opens the door for Byron Donalds. And I went, no. I mean, nobody wants this job. Jim Jordan wants to be where he's at now. I mean, he wants to be chairman of Judiciary, holding investigations on Democrat. He doesn't want to be Speaker of the House. I mean, who would want to be Speaker of the House under these parameters? It's nuts.
Well, it's not even giving you a way to be a parameter on it. I mean, Chip, it's just, it's like going in and having, you're fighting, with your wife, and you're fighting with your kids, and you're fighting with the mother-in-law. And it's like you pick one, you're in trouble with two others. I mean, it's not like you're going to win the argument here. But it is concerning to me. And I know you were there, and I was there through this first shutdown. Eric Cantor made a great point the other day in an article in Politico. And look, do I believe, and I actually had an interview on Newsmax the other day that I don't think the host liked what I said. I don't mean that, badly, but they didn't expect it. Maybe that's the best way to put it. And I said, look, fighting the right way is one thing, but just simply fighting, it doesn't lead you. And she just sort of said, well, everybody just wants to, everybody wants to see a fight. Does everybody want to see a fight, or do they want to see something that actually can win? And I think that's become our goal. And, Cantor was there in 2013. I was there in 2013 when we went for 16 days on a shutdown. I'll never forget, and again, disagree how you want to, but we had Obamacare as a central theme. Okay? That was stopping Obamacare. Now, whether we agreed we could do it or not, because we didn't have the Senate, we didn't have the White House, we went at it. Okay? At least we could try and make the public that. There's not a theme here, Chip. There's really not. And I think one of it is impeach Biden. The other is cut spending. The other one is secure the border. The other one is it. It's for the Republican base, it's like the lion tamer with the stool. There's 3 or 4 prongs coming at them, and they don't know. They just sort of paralyzed. They don't know what to do.
Well, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, Doug. And it used to be, to your point, that you were rewarded for fighting and winning. Today, you are rewarded for fighting and losing. It's a big difference. And what I mean by that is, look at how campaigns were run 10, 15 years ago, and before then, kind of in perpetuity. Major donor money was always gold, and small dollar donors were silver and bronze. And that's completely flipped with the ability to raise money online. I mean, all of these races now, most of these races are now funded by small dollar donors, giving $10, $25, $50, sometimes on a recurring basis. And those donors that a majority of those donors who contribute to those candidates, they like Republicans fighting fights that they can't win, because they buy into the rhetoric of a lot of the caucus that's given Kevin the most trouble. They see him fighting. They don't see him winning, but they see him fighting. And I'm like you. I love to fight, maybe too much, but you got to win every now and then, or you're just making noise.
Yeah, well, I think this is, and we go back to a very great mutual friend from Georgia, Lynn Westmoreland, who always just said, get your asbestos britches on, and it's time to, go at it. And sometimes you have to. But to think about it, and this is my concern, it's not that I don't, and I think one of the things I want to make very clear here, it's not that I don't agree, and I'm going to personally say, if you do it properly, there's ways to do it. Democrats have been very good at smaller majorities than Republicans have. They're able to give one or two a pass. Everybody else votes for it, and then you just stick together. Even if they lost the election, they're still getting policy done, which we have a hard time with. And, I think back to some conversations I had with Lynn back, years ago about this. But when we go into it, you said, fighting and losing. Can you imagine if General Patton, who loved to fight, would always go into a battle and he lost every time? After a while, he'd be removed. It's not just you just go, kill time and places here. So it is frustrating. Look, I wish they would get it together, find ways to go. But here's the big thing that nobody's talking about. And this will be our last real sort of serious topic for the morning on Friday's Finest. For those of you who like our hilarity, we're getting rid of that in just a minute. You're looking at Republicans in the Senate who don't agree with this. Republicans in the Senate are going to side with the Democrats, and they're going to get 70 or 80 votes on a continuing resolution, and it just undercuts completely the House argument to bring them to the table, as I've heard some of them say.
Yeah. And how about McConnell yesterday or earlier this week? I don't know if it was yesterday or as I said, maybe earlier, but he was asked about it in his gaggle at the Capitol, and he said, "Look, I think the exact question that a member of the media posed to him was, what advice do you have for the House as they embark on this process?" And McConnell said, "Look," as he thought about it, he was quiet, and he said, "I don't have any advice that I'd give to the House." He said, "They have a different set of challenges over there than we have."
Yeah, exactly.
McConnell's never said something so accurate.
Yeah, that's the most accurate thing I've ever heard the man say in my life. It's pretty good. And you and I go way back with him. So,
yes,
and his folks. All right, switching gears. James, it's Friday's Finest, our Texan by way of New Jersey. How are we doing this morning?
Just wonderful, peachy. It's gloomy. It's my electric bills in the 800s this month. No, everything's fine.
James, you got to love, and also, okay, folks, we'll admit this, we're taping on Thursday. We did this intentionally because if we had taped on Friday morning and the Vikings-Eagles game did not go the way James hopes the Vikings-Eagles game will go tonight, James may not be able to participate tomorrow.
Bold of you to assume that I have hope for tonight's game. I can't do this anymore. My dad texted me this morning. He goes, "I think I'm just going to wait to see if the Eagles are up by 10 before I put it on, because I don't know if I could take the heartbreak of watching the Vikings lose that bad again." And I said, "You're probably right. It's probably a good idea."
Hey, Chip, I was talking to James the other day, and I told him, I said, at a certain point in time, Kirk Cousins just needs to sue for non-support. I mean, the man gets hit every play. Him and Joe Burrow ought to have a T-shirt made.
Joe Burrow.
What is it? Where they get the bunching bag?
They should wrap Joe Burrow in bubble wrap before they let him go anywhere on that field, because honestly, like with Kirk Cousins, yeah, it's whatever. Like, we did spend a lot of money on him. But $275 million for Joe Burrow, is that the number that they gave him?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to let him get hit like that? Call Indianapolis and see if they've recovered since they lost Andrew Luck, and see if what they're doing is they need to spend every human dollar that exists. Whatever the owner has, give ownership to whoever wants to come and protect Joe Burrow, because what happened last week can't happen again.
Speaking of what happened last week, I'll go to Chip first. $900 million in 4 quarterbacks, 1 touchdown pass. Look, I had Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow on my fantasy team. I started Lamar Jackson, 12 points. Joe Burrow, 6 points. Really?
You don't need to tell me. I've got Joe Burrow on my fantasy team, and my backup quarterback is Dak Prescott. So, if you look at week 1 of the regular season, the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th scoring quarterbacks are the ones that sign the big deals. And by the way, when I drafted Joe Burrow, which was late in the preseason, he had not signed that deal. I thought he was going into a contract year. I mean, the guy throws for 82 yards on Sunday, and Dak Prescott. Look, I mean, he threw for 143 yards with no touchdowns, but he didn't need to throw. I mean, the Cowboys were killing the Giants. And so, look, we're 1 week into the season. It's a long season now. But, yeah, Lamar, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, everybody in the league right now.
The only one who got paid
has
that
more
had
fantasy points than that.
the only one who got paid that had a decent day was Justin Herbert, and even that they still lost. So,
yeah,
that
I love. All right, James, question for you. And Chip alluded to this, so let's take off what Chip said here. First week, what have I been saying for the last month and a half about preseason in the NFL, cutting it down to 3 games? I've been basically saying you just move the preseason to game 1 and game 2.
Yeah, I mean,
am I wrong, James?
You're not wrong. I mean, we watched it. I mean, I'm not going to – okay, I don't want this to come off as bias. But the Vikings lost to the Buccaneers, right? And not because their defense was terrible, which was the problem last year. Not because of some fluke plays. Because no one on the offense was on the same page. Our best – I mean, well, Justin Jefferson doesn't count. He's a god. But, most of the plays, they were all ugly. It was turnovers and it was bad football. And we lost by a couple points to the Bucs. Now, we could have lost that game in any other way. But Baker Mayfield really didn't look that bad, which, whatever. But if you let's move that game aside, then you have obviously the Browns game was weird. The Giants game is unexplainable to me. The Giants game is unexplainable. I know I never thought you should have paid Daniel Jones that money, but 40-0. You couldn't even put a point on the board. You couldn't get in field goal range. Field goal range. This is what we're talking about. Because like you said, you see it every week, and I argue with you all the time because I still think I wouldn't put any of my players out there. This is what you get week 1 and probably week 2.
Yeah, well, it just makes it out. And look, I think something here, Chip and James, but Chip, I think the issue is you brought up Dak Prescott. And if you take the words that were said, what was the old Eddie Murphy? Are you hearing the words coming out of my mouth? If you hear that from the announcers, they're saying that this is going to be the new Dak Prescott. They're not going to make him throw the Josh Allen stupid 40-yard down the field passes. That they're going to honestly keep him into the 10 to 20-yard passes so that, one, he doesn't have 15 interceptions. But, look, Josh Allen has gotten a free pass, which he will not get anymore after that performance on Sunday. But do you think that they've actually maybe found the formula for Dak Prescott?
Look, no, I don't. I think, I think the Cowboys Giants game was one that just wasn't like all the others, right? So I think it's going to be hard to evaluate Dak's performance on Monday and draw any conclusions as far as what's going to happen in the rest of the year. And I guess the same could be said for everybody. I mean, all these offenses are timing offenses. And you get reps. I mean, the only way you can get reps is in real, game action. And Joe Burrow didn't even get that in practice. I mean, not only did he not play in a preseason game, but you remember he tweaked that,
Right.
that Achilles, early that first day of camp, and he didn't even practice. And so, I think both of you are right. It's going to be a week 3 or 4 until these offenses start clicking, until these overs start hitting, and until these quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends and running backs can all get in sync. And it's just going to be ugly football until then.
Am I crazy?
Yeah, you just brought up a great point, James. I'll get to you in just a second.
Good.
But you brought up a great point, and I saw it broke down this week on some film that we forget about the fact Lamar signed the huge contract, but they brought in a new offensive coordinator from Alabama who
From
Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia, who is a timing pattern quarterback. I mean, offensive scheme, and they showed how Lamar in the first half got a little better in the second half, but it was those timing issues that you're seeing. I think you're dead on that. James, go ahead.
Well, actually, I was going to bring up an offensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy is running the offense for Dallas now, which sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. But because they just, I know
Jerry
that,
Jones.
Am I crazy? Am I the only one who remembers that Dak Prescott was killing guys with Kellen Moore as his offense coordinator, and then he got hurt? Am I the only one remembering the beginning of last season where he had like 4 straight games where he was on fire? And then the years before, 2 years before that, he was essentially doing the same thing with some turnovers, and it wasn't as bad as last year. And then they were like, you know what? This isn't working. No, the guy got hurt. He broke his thumb. He broke his thumb on his throwing arm. Maybe I'm crazy. I think this is going to be a disaster because Mike McCarthy does not play his best. Like, he's going to have Tony Pollard sharing time with other running backs, and it's going to be a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh
no, I'm just saying. Like, I think Dak Prescott should be always in the category for MVP with that team, and they're just going to let that slide.
Okay, well, speaking of that kind of thing, Chip and I can see this one up close and personal, especially in the pro ranks. Atlanta just drafts people and then doesn't play them.
Poor Drake London.
You know, and I thought it was so good. Algiers came out and just ran like a madman on Sunday. Although Bijan Robinson, I have to say, as good as advertised, I'll give him that. I mean, the times he had it.
But how do you draft Bijan with the 7th pick and play Algier for more snaps? That's insane.
Well, how about Kyle Pitts not getting targeted, Chip? Come on.
Yeah, look. They're gonna have to find the right balance between Algiers and Bijan. And Bijan, to me, he's more of a slot receiver. Right? You line him up in the slot. I mean, you know, he can be he can be behind center in a traditional formation sometimes, but you know, he's dangerous out of the slot. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts. I mean, yeah, that's crazy, especially given the fact that Desmond Ridder struggled so much early. You know, I mean, you would think one of the ways to get him out of, get him out of the pocket, get him moving, complete some passes to Kyle Pitts in the flat, just some basic 5-8 yard out routes. And there was none of that. And so, look, I think these teams improve the most between week 1 and week 2. You'll go back and go back and look. Dallas Goedert, great tight end too on my fantasy team. He didn't get any targets in week 1, and it's like, are you kidding me? And then they asked Sirianni about it in his post game press conference, and I expect Dallas Goedert to get a lot of targets this week. But week one's such a hodgepodge, man. But you got to get Kyle Pitts involved, and Drake London wasn't involved.
If you're Atlanta, though, it worked. Like, they won. And Arthur Smith and his mustache are going to be stuck doing this nonsense every week. Now, I have Bijan on my team, so I don't care. But if you own Drake London or Kyle Pitts, if you have him on your fantasy team, you have to be complete. Drake London is way too talented to see one target. One.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're talking about Arthur Smith says that Drake London doesn't care. He's going to care when his contract negotiation comes up and he's got 20 targets on the season. Like, that's crazy.
Well, Mike Smith does have a new haircut, so I mean, hey, we can look at it from that perspective, I mean, but and I actually have a mutual friend now that is best friends with the Smith family and all, and it is it always just comes back up. I love how they talk about him. He's coaching, and then they always seem to add in this fact. Well, he really doesn't have to be doing anything. He's got more money than anybody else, and it's like, but he's out there, going at it. He went the right way. I've gained a little more, I guess, respect for him, but not the play calling. I mean, it's just like,
if they win, you can't argue with it. But like, I I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're not going to put a pin in that one, James. I don't think winning is going to become a regular around here.
And you were playing the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, of course.
Who was starting the number one draft pick. It's been years since the number one draft pick as a quarterback has won their first game in the NFL. So, and halftime it didn't look like we were going to win. I mean, we needed to pull out that second half. I say we, am a Falcons fan, but I mean, well. Our body of work after 2 or 3 weeks would be a lot better than 1 week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. Hey, real quick, we're going to interject a college. Speaking of quarterbacks and offensive coordinators, we're going to inject a college that will make my friend Chip smile. The classic picture of the weekend, though, was about the third quarter, I think it was, of the Alabama-Texas game. And you had Tommy Reese up in the box with his hands like this, and he's talking to his quarterback on the sidelines. Chip, I'm gonna give it to you, buddy. Here's your opening. Alabama. Okay, hot take. Alabama has more to overcome than Georgia does right now.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. And I don't say this lightly, and I didn't say this last year because last year Alabama didn't play Georgia. They lost 2 games, but they lost 2 games really, on within one score, and they could have won both games. But the Nick Saban era is coming to an end. It is coming to an end. And look, it ran a long time. But it's hard for these dynasties to sustain themselves for a decade, and that's what they did. But I could see Alabama having 3 regular season losses this year. And Georgia, their schedule is not as tough as Alabama's right now. The top to bottom balance in the East and the West is not the same. And of course that changes next year when we bring in more schools, and we'll see what, we only have 1 year scheduling after this, and then they completely blow it all up. But I think you're seeing the beginning of the end, and I think it started on Saturday. I don't know that it started last year. I think it started on Saturday, and look, Jalen Milroe is not a quarterback. I'm sorry, he's not. And and I know that because I'm an Auburn fan, and I've been watching Jalen Milroe type quarterbacks try to succeed for us. And when your productivity from the quarterback position relies more upon the quarterback's feet running than it does his arm throwing, it doesn't work out long term. And I think they're going to have to make a change at quarterback to be at a point where they are competing, because right now I think LSU is probably the favorite out of the West to make it to the
and that hurts my heart. That hurts my heart. James, what do you think?
Well, I have a question. Does Nick Saban retire, or does Nick Saban get fired, or is it a mutual parting of the ways? Because I don't see him going anywhere. I know you said
they won't fire Saban. They
can't, right? They can't do that.
I think Nick Saban will leave before he's in a position to get fired. And I think there's only one college football coach in the country right now that's older than Nick Saban, and that's really an inconsequential coach at, I think, UMass. Don Brown, I think, is his name. I think he's the only head football coach that's older than Nick Saban. And so, Saban's not going to want to put Alabama in that position. He's not going to want to put himself in that position. I don't have a crystal ball to know when that's going to be. Maybe it's after next year, right? Maybe this year they lose 2 or 3 games. And, he can say, you know what, it was kind of a 1-year fluke, and we're going to come back next year. If they don't come back next year, I could see Nick hanging it up. But you remember at that point in time, he'd be 73.
Yeah.
It's college football.
Yeah,
you need a lot of energy today.
Yeah, I mean, look at what Deion's doing. But real quick, is Texas back?
Oh God, I hope.
It's hard to argue right now against that.
I love that.
I mean, you need 3 things to be a successful quarterback. You need talent, you need confidence, and you need maturity. And Quinn Ewers has always had talent, and he's always had confidence. but he was never really mature, right? And now it looks like he's grown up a lot. And I tell you that Texas team looked really good, and I don't think that game was really all that competitive. I think the score could have been, the margin at the end of the game could have been larger than what was on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I don't disagree with you there. And again, I'm just there's several teams in the world that I'm not a fan of. Texas was definitely one of them. USC is the other one with their other price lineup out there. But James, you just mentioned it. Let's get into it. I was bullish on this early. I thought it was going to be better, but I didn't really. I have to be honest. I didn't know it was going to be this good, but I thought it was going to be good. Deion has got him playing.
I mean, it so much.
He's going to be 3-0 after this weekend, and I'm predicting an upset in either the Oregon game or the USC game. I think he's going to be looking. I think by October they're going to be bowl eligible.
Has Deion lost anywhere outside of when he went to the Redskins?
No.
He just doesn't lose. I know even in Atlanta they started to win. They had MC Hammer on the sideline, and now 30 years later, or whatever, I'm probably wrong. It's probably 40. They're balling out, and just I can't even. I love this so much. I love Deion Sanders. I love that his son is eventually going to go to the Vikings and win us a Super Bowl. And that kid, I know I'm blanking on his name right now, and he's the two-way star. Man, that kid is such a baller. Yeah. All he does is make plays. That's all he does. He wakes up in the morning, brushes his teeth, and makes plays.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's going to be. What do you think, Chip? Well, you think the bubble's going to burst?
Look, well, I'll say this, and I've got a confession to make. Is that I tend to throw some money around on some college football and NFL.
We don't gamble on this podcast.
Wagers. So, a lot of times when something looks too good to be true, most of the time it's too good to be true. And the week before the season started, the regular season betting line, total wins on the Colorado Buffaloes, was 3.5 total wins.
Yes. And I am kicking myself.
Oh, and I loaded up on it, but I kept on thinking something's up because it was trading at plus 100. The over was trading at plus 100, and the under was trading at minus 120. And for those of you who don't bet a lot, that means if something's trading at minus, it's a favorite. If something's trading at plus, it's an underdog. And so you had to put down $120 on the under just to win 100. And they've won 2 games, and we're in the 14th of September. And not only are they going to be bowl eligible for October, but this is going to be a 2 or a 3 year deal. And then Deion's going to go to a better program. Colorado's not a blue blood program, but what Deion's doing is, he is setting himself up for a blue blood job in 2 or 3 years.
He's setting himself up for an NFL job.
What's that?
I said he's setting himself up for an NFL job. Don't get it twisted.
That's a good point. Very, very good.
He's going to the NFL.
Yeah,
that's what he wants.
Let's argue that one for a second. I don't know. I'm not sure he's actually looking at a pro job. I'm not sure he's old school. If you look, and I love the way they described this the other day. They said you got prime time and you got Coach Sanders. And when he's with those players and he's on that field, it's take your hat off when you're talking to a coach. You respect it. You work hard. He is the old school, like Chip and I. And I love the way James threw in the other day. Oh, that's 40 years ago, James. Yeah, Chip, did you notice how he just threw us under the bus with Deion in Atlanta? But when he's out doing the publicity, he's back to the prime like he had in Atlanta.
Because he's a genius.
The question will come, though, is can he coach anybody other than his son and Travis Hunter? That's the question I have.
That's why he'll go pro. Because he doesn't have to take that decision.
But it all comes down to recruiting, right? He can coach him if he can get him to come there and play. Kirby Smart said it. He said, after he won his second national title last year with Georgia, he said, look, we won because so many of these kids were willing to come to our school and to play here.
Right.
And look, Kirby's a great coach, but he's also a really good recruiter, and he knows the importance of it. And so is Deion Sanders. And so, either way, whether he goes to the NFL or whether he stays in college, he's not going to be in Colorado 4 years from now. I'd be surprised if he's there 3 years from now. Maybe this is a 1 or 2 year deal. This team went 1-11 last year. It's an immediate turnaround. There's going to be a lot of programs. Texas A&M comes to mind, might be one of them. If they could buy out, find money,
Jimbo,
buy out Jimbo, and then pay Deion at the same time. But look, Deion Sanders had success at HBCU at Jackson State. He's now having success at a Power 5, and I think he gets to make a determination himself whether or not he wants to make that jump to the NFL or whether he stays in college football and goes to one of the blue blood programs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting here. One quick one, I want to touch on this one because I was away on a trip when y'all did when y'all did Friday's Finest a couple weeks ago, but came back, watched the Georgia Dogs play, and was immediately, it's the Mike Bobo era again. And then the next game last Saturday, it was again, to me, the Mike Bobo era again. I want to see how we play against South Carolina. And I'm not sure that's the big, but I think it'll be a better test for us because I'm going to be blunt. They look lethargic in the first couple of games. And granted, they're playing Ball State and they're playing Middle Tennessee or whoever they're playing. But again, Chip, you brought up the schedule, and James, you've mentioned this before too. The schedule looks inviting. I mean, the schedule looks really good for Georgia, and I agree with you. But does it concern either one of you that Georgia just sort of sleptwalked through 2 wins? Now, I get the stats were, quote, okay and everything else, but was there something missing, or am I just being too harsh on them?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, look, I think Georgia fans have gotten very spoiled with what they've seen the last 2 years, and rightfully so. I mean, it was complete and total dominance of college football. I mean, it was back to back. That almost never happens. But, as you say, you just won back-to-back national titles after not winning a national title since 1980. And as good of a coach and motivator as Kirby Smart is, and as sensitive to the fact that, it's easy to get complacent, I mean, all these players except for the true freshmen have 2 rings. I mean, it's just so hard to keep up, with that level of perfection, because it really was perfection, and you did so with a quarterback who was, who was not a blue chip 4 or 5 star, and now you got nothing but 4 or 5 star. I just, I think Georgia could still win the national title this year, even though, I mean, I agree they kind of look maybe a little lethargic, sleepwalked. I mean, but they still haven't really played anybody, and so we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if Georgia disappoints some people this year, only because the pendulum's has got to swing down at some point, and that pendulum's been on the way up for a long time.
Yeah, but with this schedule, and I don't mean to harp on it, but I'm not saying you're overreacting, but they did win 48-7 and 45-3. It's not like they didn't do it. They don't care because they're playing Ball State. I know it's hard to get up for those games. I mean, I think you guys have all been, whether you were or not athletes, you've all played in a sport where you saw the person across from you and you're like, I'm going to kill them today, regardless of what happens. And you can just tell, like, some of these players are like, we're just going to wait to play. I mean, South Carolina is not going to be a big deal either. Personally, I just don't think it will be for them. I don't know. I think Georgia's going to sleepwalk through this entire season.
Yeah, I think Georgia, though, for those of us who've watched them forever, though, we have a real habit of playing to the team that we're playing.
Sure.
We've always have, Chip. I think you've seen that before. I mean, teams we're supposed to beat. Kirby's done better with that. I have to give Kirby credit with that. He's done better at, running up the score a little bit or playing on these things. But under Rick, I mean, we'd play Ball State to a 24-10 game and call it a victory, and it was just there. On a special note, before we get to something else, though, news was breaking this morning that Stetson Bennett has been put on the non-injury list, and we'll just with no other knowledge, and I think they handled it. McVay handled it, but you just got to keep him and the family in the prayers. I mean, there's something going on there that you don't want to see to anybody. I don't care who it is, and we'll see how that turns out as it goes. Coming back up though, we got this weekend as we go. James, a question for you.
Shoot.
You're in Dallas.
Sure am.
Dallas looked like world beaters against New York Giants this past Sunday night.
Are you going to ask if they're overreacting? Every person outside waving their flags? Yes, they are.
Yes. Does it look like 9/11 after the thing with all the flags flying and everything else, where we all got patriotism again? Is Dallas now the star city again?
It's so unbelievable. Is anyone here a Dallas fan? Good. Okay. It's so unbelievable how ridiculous this fan base is. They haven't won since 1995. Now, I know that my team's never won, so maybe I'm just a bit jealous. But these people, there were no flags the other day. There was like one or two Dallas flags. I drove into town. There is a Dallas flag in every window, every shop. The mall is just Dallas stuff. It is disgusting. It is awful. They're going to be okay. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad football team. That defense looks terrifying. But remember that they also played the Giants. All right? Let's relax a minute. Daniel Jones isn't Patrick Mahomes. Now, Dallas has who does Dallas have this week? The Jets? Oh, they're going to overreact again because they're going to put Zach Wilson in a stranglehold. But wait till they play like an opponent they have to worry about. Also, let's see how Dak Prescott does against this Jets defense. Maybe he'll need to make some plays. I don't know. But the overreaction over here is absurd.
All right. We're at the point now to where we're going to pick some games. James, you got to keep us updated here on this. We're going to do a couple of we're going to do 3 or 4 picks in college. We'll do 3 or 4 picks in the pro ranks. First up will be, let's just go straight to that Georgia-South Carolina game. Chip?
Are you asking me to pick against the spread or straight up?
What is the spread on this one? It's 27.5. Oh, dear God.
I think Georgia wins by 31. I'm going to take the dogs and give away 27.5.
I'll take the dogs on that one, James.
I think South Carolina's going to cover if it's 27.5.
Okay, well, there's got one. Let's go down to here's one for you. Spread 7.5. North Carolina giving 7.5 against Minnesota. Both of them are 2.
Where is it?
It's at North Carolina.
You're giving up 7.5. So the Tar Heels are favored.
Favored by 7.5.
I think they win. I don't think they cover the spread. I think it's a touchdown game.
Okay, James.
I'm going to take NC by 2 touchdowns.
I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna take Minnesota on this one and take the 7.5. All right, Colorado State. The spread is 23. Now think about this. They were 3 touchdown underdogs against TCU 3 weeks ago. They're now 3 touchdown favorites against Colorado State.
I'm taking the dog in that one. I think Colorado wins their 3-0, 23.5 points. A lot of points for a football team that was 1-11 last year.
Yep. I'm going to go Colorado on that one. I'll give the 23. I think they're going to be game day. The only problem here, though, is game day is there. That's the only thing that I would say. James, what about you?
Fire them up. Let's go Colorado. They're going to blow them out.
Okay. Last pick in the of the main games is Florida, Tennessee at the Swamp. Tennessee's a 6.5 point favorite.
Give me Tennessee.
I'm taking the Florida Gators. I think this is a big game for Billy Napier. They're playing at home. Look, this is Joe Milton's a good quarterback, but the Tennessee team struggled a little bit last week with Austin Peay. And I think if Florida doesn't win this outright, they keep it close within a field goal. So I'm taking the Gators.
All right, I'm gonna have to. I like your logic there, Chip, but I'm gonna have to go to Tennessee, and I'll give the 7 on that one. I just
really
don't.
Easy.
I don't.
You and James just pick favorites, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, not really. Yeah, but I'm taking. I mean, I just on that one, like I said, I'll take the point. I mean, I'll give the points. I think Tennessee's going to take them by more because I just don't think Napier is. I just don't see him lasting the season. I mean, there's just something about it. They just, you know, the rumblings. Yeah. Look, you and I both are SEC.
It's a must win. It's a must win for him at home. It's a must
yeah. Win. I don't disagree. With it all there. As we go. All right, let's switch to the pros real quick. We got some. Well, we won't do the night game. Here's one for us. Packers. Oh, here's the line. It's an even line. Packers, Falcons, straight up.
I like Atlanta. I think Jordan Love overperformed in week 1, and they played. Look, they credit to him and the whole Packers team, but I think the Falcons. I think they win a close game. I think Desmond Ridder gets going a little bit. I think spreads the ball out a little bit more, and I think the Falcons win at home and they're 2-0, but. They're one of the few NFL teams that start the season with 2 home games. So, then it gets tough after that. But I like Atlanta this weekend.
James?
Can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I'm taking Green Bay.
No Viking fans.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
Every Vikings fan
play football, and all I got was angry and pissed off. Because I was like, there's no way that they did it a third time. I don't think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers, but some of them plays he was making, I was like, no. I was crying at home because I know it was coming.
Nice. I'm going to take the Falcons. I'm going with Chip on this one. All right, I'll make the first pick on this one. We got Raiders, Bills. Buffalo is a 9-point favorite. I'll take the Raiders and take the 9.
You think the Raiders are going to straight up beat Buffalo? Doug.
Yeah, Doug. I think they're going to straight up win, but I'll take the 9 if they're giving it.
All right. I'm going to let you have that, but that's the worst pick in the history of football. That Buffalo team is coming for blood after what happened last weekend.
Yeah, but you got Allen still quarterbacking. And by the way, has there ever been a picture with Josh Allen and Chris Pratt in the same room? I'm just asking.
Hey.
Just asking. Hey, all right, Chip, what do you got?
That's not going to happen again.
All right. Okay, here's an interesting one, and I just like it because it's just a little interesting. Chiefs Jaguars. It's at Jacksonville. The line is Kansas City by 3.5. I'll go first here. I'm gonna take Jacksonville.
Oh,
that's a close.
I think they're gonna be 0-2 in Chiefdom.
If it was 7, I could see taking Jacksonville, but they're talking about Patrick Mahomes here. After a loss, and he gets Travis Kelce back.
I'm buying the half point to get it down to 3, and I'm taking the Chiefs because one of the things I've learned in my betting life is, you bet against Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, you're gonna go broke quick. So, every now and then, that doesn't work out. Like they didn't cover the spread or win in week 1. I don't see him doing it 2 weeks in a row. So I'm buying the half point and taking the Chiefs.
All right, last pick. Let's just pick a sort of an obscure one here. One that really, here's one to just test us for a second because it's a 1-point favorite for Indianapolis and the Texans.
Oh, God. Do we have to watch
I'm making you pick on this one. I have quarterbacks that I don't like on either team.
What is the least viewed game on NFL Red Zone this week?
Yeah.
The only thing you're going to see is a couple of field goals. I'm taking you said, where is it?
It's at Houston. I'm going to take the Texans.
I'm kind of rooting for my boy Anthony Richardson right now, so I'm taking Indianapolis.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my. I mean, if I have to choose this game, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson too. But
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, my God.
Doug, you saw it last week. You know it's there. He's going to be a star.
He's going to make us pick. that game.
God, Richardson, give me a break. All right,
Actually,
whatever.
you know what? Let me do this. Instead
Okay.
of picking between the teams, can I take the under in that game?
What's over?
Yeah, you know what? I'll let that slide. What?
39.5. I'm taking the under.
Oh man, I'm
Yeah, I'll
smashing
give you the under on that one. I'd have to
If
give
you're
you the
not
under on that one.
smashing the under button in that game, oh my god!
All right, folks. This Friday's finest. This is what we do. It's always here, and we're glad to have Chip Lake with us. Chip, hopefully, will be with us more as we go. Of course, we got our Texan by way of New Jersey, James, always with us as well. It's Friday Finest here on the Doug Collins Podcast. If you got anything, go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com. Hit that little email button. Send us your picks. Tell us what we did right, what we did wrong, what you'd like to see the next time. But until the next time, we'll see you then. Say bye, Chip.
See you guys later. Thanks for having me.
Say bye, James.
Everyone in Dallas, relax.
We're out of here. See you next time. Hey, folks, when you look out and you see the country and just the disarray it is, you see the Biden administration, you see the wholesale prices have just went through the roof again. Inflation is tearing us up. If you have your finances all impinged in just a few areas, if you're just in stocks and bonds and you're not diversified, I got some news for you. You need a navigator. You need somebody to help you get to where you need to go with those finances. And I can't think of anybody better to do that than my friends at Legacy Precious Metals. You need precious metals in that portfolio. You need gold and silver. And Legacy Precious Metals, the folks there, they're the navigators. They know how to deal with tough times. They know and how to look ahead and take your personal situation and make it something that can be workable for you in the long term, because that's at the end of the day, that's the one you're most concerned about. You need to make sure that your personal finances and your retirement are secure. You need folks like Legacy Precious Metals helping you in that. They will take the time to learn you. They'll learn your finances. They'll learn where your investment goals are, and they'll help you get there. And metals and gold right now, in this kind of crazy inflation, in this kind of crazy economy with the Biden's economy, is just, you need that help. And Legacy Precious Metals is the one to do that. So give Legacy Precious Metals a call, 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can always visit them online at legacypminvestments.com, and you can download their free investor's guide. Legacy Precious Metals, they're the ones you need. They're the navigators to help you through these turbulent times. Hey everybody, it's MyPillow's 20th year anniversary, and over 80 million MyPillows have been sold. Mike Lindell and MyPillow wants to thank each of you and every one of you for giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. You will receive a queen-size MyPillow for $19.98. Regular price is $69.98, and just $10 more for a king size. You will receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, and so much more. This is a time to try out something other than the amazing products that you've had your eye on. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo Collins, Collins, to receive this amazing offer on the queen size MyPillow for $19.98, or call 800-986-3994. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. You know how I know that? Because I sleep on a MyPillow every night. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Collins, Collins, or call 800-986-3994 today.